Welcome to Vevay, Indiana, a historic little town on the Ohio River that I have visited and filmed many times in the past, but recently they have rethemed the town around an old local legend, that of Fred the Goat. Once upon a time, Fred the Goat lived on the hill above Vevay, so we're gonna go up there to find his former residence and grave, then go into town to find all the new painted goat statues. Here along State Road 56, partway up the hill, is a nondescript decorated statue of a goat. This is a tribute to Fred at his favorite lookout spot. Fred the Vevay Hill Goat was apparently a local white billy goat originally named Sherman, who escaped from his pen at the local 4-H grounds. He eventually just showed up on this hill and lived the rest of his life freelancing around this particular area. He became somewhat of a local staple, since he could often be seen just standing right here overlooking the road and the view of the Ohio River Valley. He took up shelter in an abandoned house right by here, and he would just graze around. Fred even had his own Facebook page, which would repost pictures of him. That account is still up. He was off on his lonesome up here. Nobody could get too close to him as he just galloped off into the woods. He wasn't too people friendly, but he was cool and beloved by the community. Sadly, he passed away in the winter of 2013. People had not seen him in a while, so a deputy stopped to check in on him, only to find him dead in the abandoned house. This original Fred the Goat memorial statue is a model for the plentiful concrete goats in town now, but this one actually stands where Fred once stood. Right now he is totally decked out in patriotic gear. Also, being in Switzerland County, there is a Swiss flag as well. Gonna prop that back up. Looks like he never stopped celebrating the 4th of July this year. I believe they do switch out his clothing every once in a while. Right by the roadside goat statue is the abandoned house Fred occupied. It is still hopefully very much deserted, and in summer you have to walk through some thorns to get there.
Ooh, ouch, 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 ouch. Alright, we have made it to the former residence of Fred the Goat.
The former home of Fred the Goat is very much dilapidated. The house doesn't seem to be too terribly old, but no human has lived in it for quite a while. The house is definitely overgrown with kudzu. Fred would often be perched up on this porch, looking out toward the view, especially when it rained. And that's not a bad view for a goat. The porch is definitely deteriorating. I like these owl decorations that are still up on the house. Now let's take a peek inside the abandoned home. On November 12th, 2013, Fred was found dead in here by a sheriff's deputy. He did take the goat's remains to the county coroner for an autopsy, and there was talk of getting him taxidermied. However, he had been dead for quite a while at that point, and the remains deteriorated too much for that, so they weren't able to discern how he died, and sadly they weren't able to get him taxidermied. It would have been great if the local celebrity goat was able to live on in taxidermy form. The Switzerland County Historical Museum would have been a good place for him. I think this house is definitely beyond repair. Okay, that thing startled the heck out of me. It keeps hissing at me. I think it's a young vulture without its hair grown in. I've never seen anything like that. It's incredibly ugly.
I got totally startled in there. When I first went in, I think I had the camera off so I didn't capture this, but something just ran out the window of, let's see, this back room where there's a creepy bird. I think it was one of those, hopefully not a person. I shouldn't walk there, there's a lot of poop. But yeah, abandoned exploration can be scary.
So that was the homestead and lookout of Fred the Goat. Very sacred ground here in Vevay. That's what the house looks like from the road. You can hardly tell it's there when it's grown over like that. About a mile farther up the hill is the supposed location of Fred's grave. Now that is going to be difficult to find. Fred was buried somewhere along this hairpin curve. You can't see any indication of it at first glance. Okay, I was able to locate the grave of Fred the Goat. I didn't have too hard of a time, you just need to know what you're looking for. The grave is definitely overgrown and is just a small unmarked marker with a stone slab over his remains. You can hardly see it overgrown like this. I found some old flowers nearby. I figured I'd put them back on the grave. Sadly, I never got to see Fred while he was alive, though I would have been in this town when he was around. I didn't even know about him until recently.
Well, rest in peace, Fred the Goat. Your legacy lives on.
Well, here's the unmarked roadside grave of Fred the Goat, a legend in his own lifetime whose popularity is being revived in town.
While Fred the Goat lived and died many years ago now, the town has only recently begun to hype up Fred the Goat, and in 2021 they had a public art project where people painted goats like the one on the hill at his memorial, and here's a map where a lot of the goats are, so I'm gonna go find all of them.
Now we're gonna head back down the Vevay Hill into town to start hunting goats. This is the old Phoenix Hotel, now home to the Switzerland County Visitor Center. I figure we'll start the goat hunt by going in here. This building opened as a hotel in 1898. Here's an old photograph of Main Street Vevay with lots of classic cars. Here's an early 1800s wine press. Vevay is also home to the Swiss Wine Festival. They have a small historical display on past businesses and residents. If you want to learn more, check out my video on the Switzerland County Historical Museum. This gourd has pictures of all the Indiana State Historic sites on it. There's also a pamphlet for the local Thibault farmstead. There are now lots of depictions of Fred the Goat in here. In 2021, the Visitors Bureau started a massive push of theming and activities centered around old Fred the Goat in order to have a fun community project and draw more people into town. Apparently it's working. They are selling various articles of Fred the Goat merch now. And there are plenty of artistic portrayals of Fred in here. The first of many goat statues is perched in this window. He's all dressed up for the beach. And this flowery goat is looking right back at the beach goat in the window. I found some unclaimed goats outside. On the grounds of the glorious Switzerland County Courthouse is the All-American Goat. This one is named Faye, or Old Faithful. That is a really cool one in front of the courthouse. I want to take a quick look around the courthouse grounds. Here's the Veterans Memorial. This plaque commemorates the dungeon underneath the courthouse, which was a safe shelter on the Underground Railroad. I got to go down there once. Here is a big theme bison, which was part of a statewide bicentennial bison painting spree. This here is the old Vevay jail. This limestone rock jail was built in 1854, so it housed prisoners over 150 years ago. The old abandoned jail is left open for exploration, which is awesome. I really like how they leave it open. So let's go through jail. I believe this jail was still in use until the 1960s. Surprisingly, hooligans have not destroyed the interior of this jail, as some original furnishings and features are still here after all this time. The toilet and sink are still in here. This was the jail shower. Ooh, terrifying. And there's an original mirror. It's always cool to go through here. Also on the courthouse grounds is a unique 1852 six-sided privy. Back then this was the most luxurious privy in the entire region, with 6 separated stalls. There's the visitor center again. We're gonna continue up Main Street on that side to find more goats. Here's a very Swiss goat in Switzerland County. All of these goats were hand painted by individual local artists. It's a really great community project. There are some goats not mentioned on the map, so I'm including all the other ones I see too. That building used to house Danner's Hardware. It was the oldest hardware store in the state on the same site until it closed a couple years ago. Here is the main intersection of Vevay, with goats stationed on all 4 corners. I always like to see celebrations of civic pride based on something unique about the town, such as a celebrity billy goat. I love this Van Gogh inspired starry goat, also known as Vincent van Gogh. Some goats are harder to spot than others. This one is displaying goat pride. That's the haunted Julia Knox house, and there is a new Lewis and Clark trail sign out front. I noticed there's a goat outside the old Grizzard home. Here's another flowery goat. That's an interesting one. Now I am going to eat at one of my longtime favorite restaurants, Roxano's. It's my first time eating in the dining room since the pandemic. And here are the legendary breadsticks. If you're in Vevay, I'd highly recommend visiting this place. It's so great. This is the historic 1837 Hoosier Theater. These playbills on the window have been there forever. They scared me as a child. That goat looks out of Phantom of the Opera. Here at the public library, there is a cloudy goat. Here's yet another depiction of Fred the Goat outside the Art Center. I'm now heading back up the opposite side of Main Street. Most of the goats are located along Main Street. They're pretty easy to spot. It looks like they just painted this one. This video was filmed in August of 2021, and sadly since filming this, I found out there has been excessive vandalism of these goats in recent months. Many have been destroyed beyond repair by hooligans. I know this really cool one with inlaid stones was decapitated. A lot of people put a lot of work into these goats, so it's really sad to hear that some of their work has been destroyed. So please, leave the goats alone, and chill out like this hippie peace goat. Well, maybe not quite like that, but chill out. Here's one of the oldest houses in Vevay. This was the boyhood home of Edward Eggleston, who was a very well-known author in the late 19th century. This pink Italianate house is great. That old abandoned auto shop is really cool too. There's one of the town's historic fire bells. This is an interesting home. This old home also has some unique architecture. It may count as an arts and crafts style. And I noticed there is a goat draped with a Swiss flag in the yard. There's also a lawn jockey.
Here at the Jefferson Craig Fire Station at the foot of Fred's Hill, they have Blaze the goat. See right here. He's got his breather on, all the fireman equipment, got a little fire truck, and he's got a controlled campfire under him. That's a pretty good one. He's also got creepy green eyes.
This fire station has one of the 4 1895 Vevay fire bells, which served as the town's old fire alarm system. This here is the Shank Mansion, a fantastic old and haunted mansion that used to be a bed and breakfast. I was able to go in there a few times many years ago, but unfortunately I didn't get back before it was sold. I found out that a famous reality TV tattoo artist named Kat Von D recently purchased the mansion for $1.5 million, and she intends to permanently live here in Vevay instead of LA. This woman seems quite interesting, and I'm curious to see what she does with the place. I also want to give a shout out to Granny's Home Cooking. It's a good breakfast stop in Vevay. So that was the legend of Fred the Goat, and the many new goat statues in Vevay. Though many have been defaced since, I hope the vandalism ceases so that everyone can enjoy the goats and honor Fred. I would highly recommend anyone to visit the town of Vevay, to do the goat trail, and to patronize the wonderful small businesses. It's a cool place. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. Also check out my other videos about Vevay, along with all sorts of other unique and fascinating towns and attractions across the country. Thanks for watching.